Gucci, so today Fendi, so
It's hot.
Hi, it's Nikki Jensen.
And Brie Piccone.
And we're
Late to the Party,
a weekly podcast about film, fashion, and pop culture from two best friends mentally stuck in Leo Mania in 1997. And today we have, as a special guest to talk about Titanic, our Jay Molina. Hey.
Hey.
Hi. Happy to be on again, or I don't know if this was before or after.
It'll be before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Whoops.
Pretend like you've never been on the pod before.
Just cut that. I've never been on the pod.
So, RJ, thank you so much for talking about Titanic with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me, and it's great that you're doing this because I saw it yesterday. I saw it fresh, I guess. Yeah, Valentine's Day. What a Valentine's Day movie to go see.
Did you see it in the 3D or just?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Same.
Yes.
First time seeing it in theaters, I was 7 when it came out. Yeah. So probably not the best age to see it at that time.
Did you see it when it came out?
No. Saw it like a year later on VHS. And at that time, you couldn't fit a 3-hour movie onto one single VHS tape. You had to split it into two. And the cutoff, the halfway point where you had to go and switch to the second tape was just, if you didn't have that second tape immediately, like, it was like, I need to see what happens next. It was so good. Such a perfect halfway point.
When is a halfway point? Because we were 3 or 4 when this movie came out, so obviously I didn't see it when it came out. But
thanks for making me feel old.
You were 7. That's not that old. But it was the 2 VHS tapes. They're like iconic.
Right. Yes. Yep. And it came, and the box was like this thick, and most boxes were like that. And the cutoff point was right after the Titanic hits the berg, spoiler, and all the Mr. Andrews and the captain and the rich guy who was just telling the captain to go faster and faster every scene that they had together, they all meet, and Mr. Andrews is trying to tell them, it's like, look, we were safe at 4 boilers, being flooded in, but we got 5 now, so we're going down. And the captain turns to the rich guy who paid for everything, and he's just like, well, it looks like you've got your headline. And then it just cuts right there.
Oh, no.
Wow. That's a big cliffhanger.
Yeah, and then the next scene, when you pop the second one in, is the scene with Cal and Rose, and he's just standing there at the doorway after Jack's been taken down to the brick or whatever, and they just have, that's when he slaps her. So that's right where the second tape starts off. I remember that vividly. I remember being a kid, never having to do that. 1, switch to another tape, and then 2, just the bass drop of like, you've got your headline, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then opening up on the slap where it's like, I had never seen that before.
A slap?
And that was, I've never seen a woman get, it was just shocking to me. I was like, what the hell? Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
No, you can.
But yeah, so imagine seeing that as like an 8-year-old at that point. I was when the VHS came out. I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Just opened up a whole new world for you.
Yeah, and I'd never seen a movie like, I mean, obviously I was like 8 at the time, but like, I was used to just seeing animated films. And so this was the first, and like a few Cameron Diaz movies, The Mask and My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yeah.
But like, I'd never seen
The
anything.
Greats?
The what?
The Greats. The Mask and My Best Friend's Wedding. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'd never seen anything of this scope, this long. Like, it was a movie that, my mom could just put in while she was cleaning or cooking or something, and just, I'd be like glued to the screen for 3 hours. She wouldn't have to worry about me. So it's like one of those like big movies that I had seen. I hadn't grown up on like Goodfellas or anything like that before Titanic. So,
well, this is my first time seeing Titanic in my life.
I saw Oh, I saw that. I think you had like tweeted that, and I was like, what?
But yeah, I'm familiar with Titanic, of course.
Sure.
But I couldn't get over when I saw the movie last week for the first time in the movie theater.
Yeah.
It's the regular length of a movie nowadays.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And it's not to
like
say that there hadn't been movies that there have been big epics before then. But I don't think anything to this extent, someone will probably fact check that. I can't think of any other. I mean, Lawrence of Arabia was pretty long, but
like Cleopatra.
Yeah, those movies from that. But like, as far as contemporary, within, I guess at that point, so that was the 90s, from like the 70s on, I can't think of a movie that, was that long or had that much of a, big to do about it. And also raised the amount of money that it did in the box office. Like nothing had really come close to that. But what was your experience like watching it? Like the first time? Like, yeah.
Well, okay, so I am a new James Cameron head, apparently, because last year I saw Avatar, the first one, for the first time, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like Pocahontas. I'm into this. I saw Judgment Day for the first time, and I was really into that.
Yes.
And I saw Avatar 2, The Way of Water in theaters, and like, there's that scene where one of the characters is like, and just like twirling around. I felt like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
watching the movie,
I felt like that. I know I had like an edible or something, but I felt like that. And
you came prepared.
Yeah, I did. But I felt it in my core, and watching Titanic for the first time was that same feeling.
Yeah.
Like from beginning to end, I was into it.
And I don't know, Bree, what's been your experience?
I would say like it was pretty similar to yours. Like I remember being a kid with the VHS tapes, and now when you mention like the part, because we were talking about where did it stop, and I couldn't really remember, but now that you mention it, I remembered like the slap and stuff, and just being like, whoa. I don't know. I remember the scene where she's like, draw me like a French girl, and being like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, imagine, I was just like,
yeah, that whole movie captured my attention. I don't know. I've always loved it. And it was cool to watch it again and watch it. This is the second time I've seen it in 3D. And I don't know. I feel like it's cool because you feel like you're almost there in certain scenes.
Yeah, the thing about the 3D, I missed it the first time around. I think it was for the 100-year anniversary back in 2012. And I never saw it in theaters. But the 3D, we're talking about Way of Water, and watching it in high frame rate 3D, you really feel like you're in that movie. Like you just poked your head through the movie screen. With Titanic, it's there, but it's almost like Cameron's not trying to push it too hard because this is different. Like it's real. It's based on something that really happened, even though we're with fictional characters throughout most of it. But I feel like he's paying respect to the fact that like, because this is a real tragedy that happened, I don't want to like make the 3D too in your face, because that would almost become a distraction, right?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like when it's sinking or something, it's not just like coming at you like a cool effect. Like it knows its limits. Yeah.
I was really shocked. There was that, the whole opening sequence, the way Cameron he applies like that sepia feel to it at the very beginning to make it feel like, is this archival footage or is it, that was really great. And then when elderly Rose starts telling the story and we transition to the pier and all that kind of stuff, I found myself like getting a little like emotional about it. I don't know if it was nostalgia or just the fact that like you have James Horner who's killing it, in the soundtrack department, and the visuals and all that. But it was like really emotional to watch.
That's a lovely transition.
Yeah, all the transitions are so good. Like all the transitions from present to past. Like you mentioned the French girl scene. the way the camera just starts pushing in on her eye,
Mhm.
and then like it's just seamless transition to who's that actress? Gloria Stewart, I think it was.
Yes.
Um, it almost feels like they were perfect for each other, like to play young and old Rose. But yeah, there were a lot of moments where I just found myself kind of like starting to get a little teary-eyed, even before we got to the second half, even before we got to the disaster of it all.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about the opening of the film a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
So the film does open up with the sepia tone, like, is this real? Is this real footage or not? And then we meet old Rose, played by Gloria Stewart. And this is my first time, and it didn't dull the experience at all, but I finally got to see that it's been 84 years.
Oh, yeah. We were giggling in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was curious because, it's become a meme now. And then not just that, but there's also someone on YouTube who put out this like spoof video of Jack drawing like a really bad doodle of Rose.
Yes.
And the theme has been butchered by like a really bad recorder. And so I was worried that like I'd laugh at the 84 years thing and and the French girl sequence. I was worried. I was sitting there. I was like, please don't laugh. Like this is meant to be like a very serious moment, but it didn't break me. Are you saying it broke you, Nikki?
It didn't break me. It actually made me feel like I was watching a football game, like watching like the Eagles win or something. I was just like trying to hold back the woo,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, or like the Meryl Streep meme where she's like, woo, she's like, yeah. But yeah, so we meet Gloria Stewart, and they're in present day, so in 97.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find the heart of the ocean.
Yep. You got Bill Paxton, who's trying to make this whole expedition seem like, oh, this is, for humanitarian purpose or whatever. We're trying to archive these things before they're lost forever to the ocean. And then I love that, he's recording himself and he's saying like really good things, kind of off the cuff. And it's like, I can't even rip like that in front of a camera. And then he turns it off. He's like, all right, that's enough of that crap. Let's look for this thing. Like he's so full of it. And yeah, Rose comes in and she's just like, hey man, that naked girl in the picture, that's me.
Yeah. I love how no one believes her. She's like, no, that is me.
Yeah, that's me. And then you got his buddy who's like, she's a very old goddamn liar, Like, yes. I just love how like jaded they all are. They're just these pirates, really. Our story is first introduced through these pirates trying to salvage stuff from the Titanic, and it's like it's not unrealistic,
Which I love Bill Paxton in this.
Oh, Bill Paxton's great.
With the earring?
And everything. Yeah. He's great in everything. And there's a funny sort of bit of trivia, like you listen to the DVD commentary or whatever with James Cameron, he'll talk about that scene where he gets the call from his investors and he's just like, yeah, I know, I need a little bit more time, these things happen and all that kind of stuff. James Cameron's like, that's basically me with producers on this movie, because everyone was telling me not to make this movie. And every once in a while I get a phone call where they're like, we can't give you any more money. And he's like, I just need a little bit more time. Yeah, whatever. So it's kind of like art imitating life.
That's funny you say that, because the whole time watching this movie, I was like, is Bill Paxton James Cameron? Because James Cameron loves the water.
He does.
Loves doing that whole thing.
The difference is, I don't think James Cameron's a pirate. He genuinely loves the ocean. So he's like an evil version of James Cameron.
But James Cameron might, I don't know, don't quote me on it, but he might want to pop on that earring sometimes.
He might want
when he's diving, he's like,
Jimmy C still has it, is what you're saying? Like,
I think
still,
so.
He still got the, okay, all right.
For sure. Also, Bill Paxton is such a fashion icon in this movie. Those fisherman sweaters.
Yeah.
I was thinking that to myself.
Cigar in hand.
I'm like, am I attracted to him?
The only time I've been attracted to Bill Paxton.
I mean, watch some more movies of his from that time.
I think Twister?
Yeah.
Helen Hunt steals it for me.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay. That's fair. What else? Oh, gosh. You're going to make me go through Bill Paxton's filmography right now?
He was in everything in the 90s.
He was, yeah. He was kind of like the sort of secret nugget, the golden nugget that you would want in your movies. He was just so, even if the script wasn't great, like he just made it feel so real and lively. Even recently, I know he's passed on, but the Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. So much fun in that movie. His whatever accent he's doing, whatever Southern accent he's trying to pull off, like he was just so good.
He commits for sure.
He does. Yeah. Yep.
But...
And then another bit of trivia is that that one guy who, the bearded, long-haired ponytail guy who's like, she's an old liar. I think he was an actual like diver or something, some sort of, whatever James Cameron does. I think this was like a real dude who actually did that.
Oh,
like he's not an actor, so.
Nice.
But he was realistic too. Like he was great.
I know. I mean,
if you can't tell already, I love this movie, and I know like all these little nuggets about it.
Well, see, usually on this pod, I come in knowing so much, like seeing the movie so many times. So this is like, I'm late to the party on this one. So it's
How
nice.
do you go all this time without seeing it?
I've been giving her a hard time about it because there's not much that I can give Nikki a hard time about because usually she has seen way more movies than me. But it's like the one where but you've seen it now. So.
I've seen it now and I can't go back.
Like, I've managed to make most of my guy friends watch Mean Girls before you'd seen Titanic.
I think, the thing that was so daunting for me was the 3 hours and 15 minutes of it all.
Sure.
But when you're in a Jimmy C movie, time it's no object.
It flies by. And last night when we were watching, I turned to my fiance and I was like, we're already here. It was right after they made love in the car and the bird was about to hit. I sat there and I was like, oh no, this is about to go to the halfway point. Like we're already here. This is crazy. How the movie moves so fast,
Yeah.
Just
I was thinking that to
feel it.
myself in the theater too, because I'm like, well, it's gonna be the long one. Because I don't know, something about sitting in a theater and not being able, not having an intermission, or you know what I mean,
Right.
But yeah,
right.
It did go by.
And
fast.
I had food in the theater. I had drink, and I did not get up at all, even though I'd seen this movie so many times. So I was just glued to it, and because you don't feel the time pass by, you don't even think about that. You're just watching it.
Yeah.
I got up one time, but I kind of regretted it. But I made it back right in time for the draw me like your French girls scene. So I was like, phew, I didn't miss too much. But I was
Another
nervous.
bit of trivia for that, Nikki, is those are James Cameron's hands drawing.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes. My
It's
So
man.
not
you
Leo.
can clearly tell, you could tell, I think he was probably in his 40s, late 40s when he made the movie. So you could clearly see some wrinkles there. Those are not Leo's hands. Leo's got the sexy hair over his eyes, but he doesn't, the hands just don't match.
He just spends a lot of time out in the sun. The hands are the first things to age. Beauty 101.
Okay, that's
Actually,
fair.
that's true.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, since we're talking about Leo and his appeal with his aged hands, can we talk about Leo Mania? Because that's, for me, that's the pop culture through line throughout this film is, I think the reason why Titanic was such a pop culture juggernaut is because of Leo Mania.
Yeah, it was huge, and I'm probably going to get this fact wrong too, but I think Romeo and Juliet came out before this, right? So then you had What's Eating Gilbert Grape, a couple of years before that, you had Romeo and Juliet. You had all of these things building up to Titanic, and it was to the point where, some more trivia, Leo, when he was coming up for this movie, he didn't want to audition for it because in his head, he was like, well, I've already done all these things. I'm a commercial success. You're guaranteed a hit with me, basically. And he almost refused to audition for Cameron. And Cameron, being Jimmy C about it, he was like, no, you're gonna audition because I'm James Cameron.
Wow.
But yeah, the Leo craze, like I remember it, it's posters everywhere, like all that kind of stuff. Like he was the big draw, and yeah, he gets top billing. But one of the things that I found interesting, and yeah, I mean, I realized this as like a teenager rewatching the film, but it really is Kate's movie.
For sure.
Yeah.
She wasn't as big of a name at that time, so she didn't get top billing. But this is totally her movie, and it's in keeping with like James Cameron's, I don't know what you want to call it, like his vibe or his thing, where he just likes having strong female characters, even if they don't start out strong, like they do become that by the end.
The Linda Hamilton of it all.
The Linda Hamilton, exactly. So like, there are some fans of James Cameron's who are like, why would he do this like Romeo and Juliet, romance movie? And it's like, it's not too dissimilar from his other movies. Terminator, you got Sarah Connor and was it Kyle Reese, right? You have, all these relationships, True Lies, like all these things. And yes, there's like hardcore action in them, but there's also hardcore action in this movie. So it's really not any different than what he's done in the past.
Well, that was the... Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I forgot that like in Titanic, there is like this element, like other than just the boat sinking, like of action, where they have like Cal's henchman is always like chasing after them, and they have like guns. Yep. Like their lives are actually threatened before the boat sinks.
Right.
Like I don't know what the biggest threat is, if it's the boat or if it's Cal.
True.
Or if it's Rose's mom.
Or Rose, yeah,
true. Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, so the point being that like this really isn't any different from his other movies. The only difference is that the special effects were at peak level at this time.
I feel like for 97, it looks really good.
Yeah. It does look really good.
Really good, even on the big screen. It didn't feel, and because it's remastered in 4K and all that kind of stuff, like it still looks better than most contemporary movies today, I think.
100%. Well, I think that's James Cameron's, like, I don't know if it's restraint is the word I'm looking for, but there's a way that his movies are timeless, like a lot of them, just because he knows how to do like the narrative that is a very compelling traditional narrative, but then with the special effects, he goes really big, but it's never garish.
Exactly. Even with something like Avatar, he's using the technology to tell the story rather than, having some sort of story there to like show off.
It's not like Marvel movies.
No.
See, I'm trying not to say that, but that's exactly what I was kind of leaning
We
to.
just all turn into Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Movies suck.
Yeah.
They're ruining
This is cinema.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, not to bash those movies because, they hold a place for a lot of people.
For sure.
And the older movies, God, coming up on like 20 years in just a few years for Marvel. But like, the original Marvel movies were definitely what you were talking about, Nikki. Like they were very, the filmmakers showed a lot of restraints and they didn't try to overdo it so much, even though they had all these visual effects and special effects at their disposal. They used it not sparingly, but like appropriately. So, there's merit to them, but yeah, sure. Nowadays it feels a little muddled.
But yeah, what were we talking about?
We were talking about, what were we talking about? I go off on tangents.
Yeah, it's all good. Leo Mania. That was it.
Leo Mania. Yes.
So one of my first memories at all is I remember being like, oh, this Leo DiCaprio must be the pinnacle of like handsomeness, the best. Like this Leo DiCaprio guy is it. Everyone loves him, and when I'm older, I will also love Leo DiCaprio.
That's what I thought.
Do you still love Leo DiCaprio?
As an actor, yes. But by the time I was a teenager, was like the Departed Leo DiCaprio and Blood Diamond. So like,
Yeah, The Departed.
You were into him in The Departed?
Yeah, The Departed.
the Shutter Island of it all.
Yes, the inception of it all. I didn't quite understand the craze because again, I was like an 8-year-old boy, so I was just like, whatever. And I think the first movie of his that I saw where I was like, okay, yeah, you're pretty damn good. And I like you as an actor. Was probably Shutter Island, you know, and I had seen like everything leading up to that, you know, Departed included, and actually Blood Diamond. So I think Blood Diamond and you know, Shutter Island were like the two movies, even though they were a couple of years apart. Like they were the ones that made me go, okay, he's actually really cool as an actor. But yeah, I never understood the craze at that time.
Well, like I remember even in The Parent Trap, Hallie, when they're in the bunk at summer camp, and she's like, "You haven't heard of Leo DiCaprio?" Like it's such a it hit the streets like in 1998 everywhere.
And his equivalent to this now, you know, in the present day, would be like Timothy Chalamet.
Oh.
You know, so I get.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, I got a man crush on Timothy. So, like, I get it.
He's
you know,
cute.
like, I understood what everyone was obsessed about in the 90s. The difference is, like, I think Chalamet is doing what took Leo maybe like 15, 20 years to do. He's done in like 10. You know,
Yeah, no, I think as a Timothy Chalamet lover,
yeah.
that is my Leo. But
Yes.
Timothy Chalamet has, and maybe it's just because of the pandemic with Dune not being as big of a hit or anything, but Timothy Chalamet isn't the star that Leo DiCaprio was in the late 90s.
Right. He's not the commercial success.
But why not?
Dune did all right.
I know.
Yeah, why not, right?
He should be.
He's better looking. Hot take.
Yeah, 100%. I have no shame saying that. I'll say it. But why, Brie? Right?
Yeah.
I think it's to do with the fact that like right up until 2008, it really was about the star of the movie. You know, this is a Brad Pitt movie. This is a Cameron Diaz movie. This is, you know, a Julia Roberts movie. Chalamet is in the wrong era. Like if he came up in the 90s, he would be as big, if not probably bigger than Leo. But because you have, and we're coming back to the Marvel of it all, because you have these superhero movies, you don't have the star anymore. You know, no one's going to see Ant-Man 3 because of Paul Rudd. They're going to see it because it's Ant-Man.
Except for me. But that's a
Except for you.
Yeah, I like Paul Rudd, but yeah.
But no, I love Paul Rudd. But like, what was the last Paul Rudd movie you saw in theaters?
Ant-Man?
Exactly.
And the Wasp?
Exactly. And he's had plenty come out since then. And that's okay. Like that's okay that you hadn't seen them. But like that's what I'm talking about with the star power versus the character power. You know, character is now the thing.
What about Robert Downey Jr. though? Because he did Marvel.
It's the same thing. Like Robert Downey Jr. was big. He wasn't even big in the 90s. Like he was already going through his sort of bad boy phase there. But Robert Downey Jr. was the reason that Iron Man was successful because there was that curiosity of like, why is he in this? Like, why is the studio putting their chips on this guy? You know, we got to go see this. This is weird. And then you see it and you're like, oh, he's perfect.
But then Downey Jr. does carry the Marvel movies until Endgame.
Right, he does. But what Downey Jr. movie have you seen in theaters besides all the Marvel ones?
Well, what about Sherlock Holmes?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sherlock Holmes.
I saw that for him.
So that was early that was like 2010 or so. Have you seen any since then?
Sherlock Holmes 2, Book of Shadows, or whatever it's called.
I don't even know
So
what he's
no
been
franchises
in.
then.
No.
Exactly. And that's okay. But like that's the effect I'm talking about. Like he was the draw for that first Iron Man because he was, you know, the bad boy and we got to see what this bad boy's doing. But now, several Marvel movies later, you're no longer going to see Due Date.
That's
you're no
that's
longer,
true.
Yeah, you're no longer going to see Dr. Dolittle, which came out like, what was it, last year or the year before? Not that movie's like great or anything, but like,
I get it. If he was a star, that movie would have been more
would
successful.
have made money.
Yeah.
But like people are, and it's also remake association as well. It's like, why are we doing a Dolittle? Like Eddie Murphy's Dolittle.
Already
Like
done it.
what's happening here?
Who needs to do it again?
Yeah. So it's one of those things. So going back to like Chalamet, he's just a product of the wrong era. Like he's making all the great moves. Like every movie of his, I'm like, great, fantastic. But I'm not enough to make an impact on his box office numbers, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I get, yeah, it's true. It's so interesting though. Back to Leo, his career, it's so fascinating to me. Like, forget all the only dating people under like 25 thing, which I know people love to talk about.
Oh boy.
Well, I won't say anything.
No, go ahead.
This is terrible. I felt really uncomfortable during the whole dance sequence where he's just like, "You're still my girl, Cora," and I'm like,
"Oh
it
yeah,
was kind of cute before."
You mean like when he was?
But now it's kind of just gross hearing you say that. Like it's weird. And of course, like Kate's character is 17 in this.
Yeah, that's something I forgot. And I also, I don't know if I ever realized that, because as a kid, your perception of age is so different. And I don't know if it's blatantly said in the movie how old she is. And she doesn't.
It's said.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Well, I just always assumed she was like 20 or something. Like, I don't know.
Oh, she's 17. And yes, you can make the argument at different time and all that kind of stuff, but it's still like you can still make the jokes about it. You can still make the Leo dating jokes about it.
Yeah, for sure. Except this is probably the most age appropriate Leo's ever gone, because he's like 21, right? 22, whatever.
I don't know. Yeah. He's only just a few years older than Rose in this, so
he's not like 45.
He's not 45 exactly.
But what was I going to say? So, yeah, Leo, my first movie I saw him in was What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And that performance still holds up. Like, I don't know if he would be allowed to play that now, but it holds up.
So now we're coming into the whole, like, what's appropriate as an actor to be playing. Yeah, I don't know. I think he could still play it. Because I think even at that time he was playing it respectfully. Like it wasn't a parody, it wasn't it was a very serious take on it. And as an actor, that's what you're supposed to do. Is you're supposed to get into that and understand it and try to portray that in a respectful way. So I think he could still do it, but
he did it in the right way.
Yes, he did.
And it's a great performance. Have you seen that movie, Brie?
Yeah.
That's one I have not seen of Leo's. I feel like I've seen everything but that movie.
So good. And then,
I was just going to say the first movie I saw with him was Romeo and Juliet. Or no, I guess it would be this and then Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. I think the same thing. I think, this was the first and then Romeo and Juliet. And I love that movie, but I was still at that age where I'm like, Leo, like, sure. Look at him. He's just sitting there at the beach and looking all Leo about it. Like, okay.
It's so crazy because Romeo and Juliet, the 1996 version, was the one in high school that they would play to try to get the kids into it. And I loved that movie, but I never really thought about Leo DiCaprio as a sex symbol. I just thought he was a really great actor.
So at no point.
I don't know. And then looking back now, like when we were watching the film, I was like, Leo DiCaprio, which is a vibe. This is a vibe, so no offense, but he gives me lesbian.
Oh yeah, didn't you say he looked like JoJo Siwa?
He looks like JoJo Siwa now, and that's hot, but not my type.
You're about to get all the flack here. Some hot takes.
I mean, but it's a good thing. Like, I get it. I've heard a lot of people say that this is when they knew they were gay. It's Leo
Sure.
DiCaprio. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, he had this very Kate too, man. Like they had this unique look about them that like no other kind of star at that time really had. I mean, yes, you had freaking Brad Pitt and Cameron Diaz, but like there was just something so interesting about Leo and Kate and how they looked, particularly in this movie, that like, you know, no other sort of actor could have that, you know, like no other actor could pull off his hair. No other actor could pull off his eyes where he's just like squinting or whatever. Like there was just something about it. And Kate as well. Like, man, gorgeous in this movie. Gorgeous to this day, but like in this movie, it's just wow.
See, that's the thing that shocked me was I wasn't like, ooh, Leo's cute. This movie made me realize Kate Winslet is a babe.
She's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, dude. And that picture that we pan by at the very end where it's like her headshot. It's like the silent movie's headshot or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she just looks of that era. Like she is gorgeous in this movie and like has that movie star, that like silent film era movie star vibe about her. Like she totally could have been one of them if she were born earlier.
Truly. I mean, she's so talented as well.
And she's yeah. And it's funny because she hates her performance in this, apparently.
I don't
Parts of it.
I mean, there were a few parts I feel like were
great.
over the top, maybe just a little, you
Sure.
know, where she just like blurts things out, like, or she's like, "I'm flying, Jack." Like, I mean, I know it's like, I don't know. Watching it now, there are some parts where I'm like, "Oh, that is a little cheesy," but then there's other parts where she's super serious and she plays it so well, and I'm just like, "Wow, okay."
Dude, I was
think
captivated.
by the time you get to the second half, yeah, and I think by the time you get to the second half, she sells everything she does.
Yeah.
Even before the disaster, it's like everything when she decides after the "I'm flying now," there's just this confidence that she has and she pulls it off so well in everything. Her acting. If she didn't like any of the stuff before the second half, I think the second half is like the sort of peak.
For me, the real turning point is so when they have that dinner and they like leave and they go to the underground, like the third class party. There's something that shifts in her as a character and her performance, like you were saying about the like this confidence. And I think after that and like the axe scene when she's going to save Leo.
I love that.
I just, talk about Linda Hamilton vibes, but also just such a great performance.
Oh man, and that scene. Thank you for bringing that up. The even before she cuts the handcuffs, when she's looking for help, and she's desperate. She's playing off the sort of damsel in distress vibe of it all. Even though she had this confidence leading up to that, like it's sort of like the last part of her old character, her innocence, in that moment where she's looking for help, and you see this thing, and I never noticed it before, and it's maybe because I'm just seeing it on a big screen now for the first time, but you see like this body shift a little bit, where after the crew guy's like, "Come on, miss," and she punches him, and he runs away. You see this shift in her body. I don't know how to like show or describe it, but like it's this thing where it's like the confidence fully takes over at that point. It was there in the party scene, but it was, let's say it was like 80% there. It was 90% there when she made love to him and all that kind of stuff. But once we get to that moment where there is no other help that's going to be around for her, she's like, screw this. I got to do this.
Yeah. In her eyes,
I got to
too.
be the one.
She's like,
yeah, her
like
eyes, like there's something about it. And I never noticed that before. You can't really see that on VHS, number one, and I never owned the DVD or Blu-ray. So it's like this is the first time I actually get to notice new things now like that.
For sure.
yeah.
Oh, what did you think of the romance? Because that's a whole thing too.
Yeah, their chemistry was off the charts. we can talk about the writing, and Jimmy C has a tendency to be a little hammy and cheesy sometimes, but you know what? I like that. I like the earnestness of it. Like, it's very old school, and I feel like a lot of scripts these days, particularly with the comic book movies, are a little too cynical, a little too jokey, a little too jovial and childish and immature. And so, yeah, bring on the cheese. I don't mind it. I like it. But as far as their chemistry, like, man, what's the movie since then that you can think of where that level of chemistry has come across where it didn't feel forced? Because it doesn't feel forced in this movie. I can maybe think of like one.
I can't think of any.
Yeah, I'm trying
Great,
to think.
what you got?
I'm trying to think. Romance movies. I mean, maybe Pretty Woman. I feel like there's chemistry.
That was before this.
1990.
Oh, in this year?
No, like
After
after 97.
Oh, yeah. Since 97. I don't know. I can't really think of any. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the one that comes to mind for me is probably Call Me by Your Name.
That was really good.
That was really good. They had great chemistry. But it was this awkward chemistry that was working its way towards what it ultimately became. Which is right for the story, obviously.
Yeah.
But for this, like, you felt the spark, and cheesy dialogue aside, like, I fully believe that these were two people who had instantly fallen for each other, and they were just having fun on this ship. And, the bit where they're just, I love her acting. When she's like, even if, say we go to Santa Monica, and like, even if we're just talking about it, like, the way she says it and the way they carry the rest of that scene right up until they're like spinning over the the railing or whatever, it just feels so natural. It doesn't feel scripted. It just feels so real. And I'm one of them, like, and Leo should have just stayed with her, like,
For real.
like, it's one of those things where it's just so good.
Yeah. What
did you think?
Where I don't get the Leo Mania thing, I get the Kate and Leo thing. The Jack and Rose thing.
I ship them.
Yeah.
It's palpable. Like, there's a scene, and you like you said, you could say it's writing or directing or, whatever movie magic. But when they do the scene where I'm flying and they do the close up of their hands, just like grazing each other.
It seems real.
And that's the hottest scene. Hot take.
So real. And yes.
That got me a little hot and bothered.
Not even the car. It was the hands.
No, not even the car. The car was more just her taking full ownership of her choices. Something that she had never had. She never had been able to do right up until that point. She was like, "I'm gonna sleep with this guy. I'm gonna drag him back here. I'm gonna do this."
Like literally
He's gonna
pulls
put his hand off. Like,
yes,
literally pulls him in,
Like,
and she's telling him what she wants. Put your hand on me. Do this. Do that. But the flying scene, you're right. Like, I felt that too. I was like, damn, this is good. Like, this is
like, when I was feeling, I'm like, chemistry. Oh, this is a little cheesy, but then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, but those hands, like, this is hot. Whew.
It's true.
He's like whispering and singing into her ear and stuff, and like, I was like, damn. I think the second closest as far as chemistry maybe would be like A Star Is Born with Gaga and Bradley Cooper.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Actually, yes, you're right.
You are.
But, because it's Gaga, and I love Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, it still feels kind of showy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it still feels like they're like, oh, we're theater kids. Not that I'm a theater kid, but like, it still feels like, yeah, let's really like spice it up for them because they'll love this. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like they're in on it. Whereas like Kate and Leo feel like they're just being recorded, like in the distance, like Jimmy C's just back there with the camera going, this is great. Yeah. And we're just getting a slice of life with them, as opposed to them being like, oh yeah, let's graze our hands together because they're going to love this. It's, it doesn't feel showy.
Which is crazy you were talking about like the character Rose having this autonomy and this confidence. I believe that they were trying to film that scene on the boat for a couple days or at least a day or two. and the lighting, they couldn't get it right. And Kate is the one who was like, hey, we got to film this right now. This is our time. And I just love that as an actor to feel like, no, I have this instinct and to act on it and to be this bold. I love that.
And I think, there's a lot of stuff about Jimmy C, which I like how we're calling him Jimmy C. But there's a lot of stuff about Jimmy C and how sort of demanding he can be as a director. I mean, obviously, the man, like, he can do whatever he wants because his talent is clearly there. Like, he's not just some hack who's like being rude for the sake of it. But to your point, he does. It seems like he lets his actors command the space when it's about them. When it's all behind the camera and he's trying to get the shot put together and he's trying to get the concept, whatever, all that kind of stuff, that's him. But when it comes to the actor, I feel like he does respect the actor to let them be like, hey, we're going to shoot this now. I'm feeling it right now.
I read too that like all the extras, because there's like 150 extras, he had them like come up with their own backstory and everything just so they would be like invested, and I don't know. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to him just letting his actors do their thing. Like he gives them that space. Like I would kill to sit, in their volume wherever they film Avatar, the performance capture, because that, when you read about all these interviews with them, they talk about it like it's theater. They actually just sit around and go, what are we doing? Like, what's this thing about? It's not James Cameron being like, just do it. It's like, let's actually work through this together. Like he's an actor's director. It feels like so.
Well, like in Avatar, Zoe Saldana's performance gives me theater in every sense. It is like a theater performance. And that's not either here nor there. I think she's good. It's just, there is something different about theater acting versus film acting for sure. Yeah.
I felt that more in the first movie than I did the second movie, but I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, Kate just killed it. And to have that confidence, right? Because I think she had done, a few films, probably about the same as Leo or maybe less. I think her biggest film, not even like a big film, was Heavenly Creatures before this with Peter Jackson. But she wasn't Leo. And Leo couldn't break through Cameron with his "I'm not auditioning" thing. Like Cameron was like, "No, you're auditioning." So for Kate to come in and be like, and I think that's the respect that he has for women in general. Like, he's like willing to be like, "Nope, we're gonna do that because she's right," And Leo's being annoying, so like he's gonna have to, all that kind of stuff.
For sure. Oh, I love just talking about Kate Winslet and Rose. Her entrance scene.
Oh, I love it.
Which I love the just shot of her hat and then she like lifts up her face and you see her for the first time.
And that light hits her.
Chef's kiss.
Still light or whatever you want to call it. That bounce light hits her. Like I was like, gorgeous.
That was another moment where I wanted to Meryl Streep, just like, woo!
Are we all just Leo falling in love with Kate Winslet?
I think so.
I think so, yeah.
And I also love her costume in that intro scene because it makes me think of Audrey Hepburn, My Fair Lady.
Oh yeah, the big hats.
Yes, and I feel like that just is like the start of something really good.
Well, all of her outfits in this are great.
They're so good.
The red dress as she, runs to the back of the ship, the dress that she wears after being drawn, like it almost feels too contemporary, but at the same time it feels appropriate for her. Like if you put her outfits on any other character, probably kind of, except for the first one that we see her in, it'd probably feel out of place, but on her it's like timeless.
Well, I think the costumes are historically accurate. I think also, I mean, this is not like Kate Winslet has the body of someone from that time as well.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know what else to add to that, but like, and maybe that's the, it goes back to that thing of that specific look at that time, that body style. Like it's this timeless beauty. The way she wears it feels like she could pull it off now.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just the way it sits on her, and then the design of it, like it just feels. I think I'm just a fan of like 19 teens fashion.
Yeah, like that Gilded Age into modern.
Yeah.
I think Kate Winslet too, she does wear this 1912 style really well. Like it is either 1912 or 1997.
Like exactly.
And this is no shade to the actresses that were up for the role of Rose, like a Gwyneth or a Reese. But like that's a different vibe entirely.
Yeah.
That is a little more contemporary.
Exactly. I kind of found it interesting, just as a little side. Her lipstick feels very 90s though.
Yeah, I think she wore that same lipstick like just in real life. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but I love that.
But I love it too, and it fits. Like it works so well. So like 90s fashion with 1912 fashion, like let's make that happen. Let's make that a thing.
Yes.
Well, like that lip, it's funny you mention lip shades because I think about this watching every single movie I ever watch.
The lip shade of it all.
Because there's like a specific way that, the makeup artist is blending different shades and stuff. It's not just like out the tube. But there's a certain like lipstick that every lady wears in a movie. In this one, it's just that color. I don't know. I wish someone could bottle it up.
It's like a burgundy. It's like a dark, like it's.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the color. Like I'm a sucker for it. I see it on Kate. And I'm like, I'm there.
It's like Kate in this, Liv Tyler in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Which they say is Black Honey by Clinique, but I don't think it is. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, you tried it? You're like, this is not it?
It does look like it, but as someone with a similar skin tone, it's a little... They blotted something, they blended something. That's all I'm saying.
Fair.
What else? Oh, I want to ask you this since you're a dude.
Sure.
So this is a real list according to Wikipedia, but there's movies that make men cry. And this is at the top of the list. Does this movie have like a special men effect? Like, what is this?
Yeah, it's not at the top of my list. Yeah. Like I said, when I was watching it, just in that opening sequence, right before we meet Rose, I was getting a little emotional and choked up about it, but I wasn't, a tear had not come out. That feeling that I had, I don't know if I'm still trying to figure out if that was the movie itself or if it was my own nostalgia of like, I was a kid when I was, 8 or 9 when I saw this on VHS, and now I'm 32 or whatever, and I'm seeing this in theaters. Like, I'm a sucker for like time, like,
I know what you mean,
and reflection, and to be like, man, I'm sitting here in theaters and like it's wild, and I'm sitting here with my fiance, like this is crazy. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. So I don't know if that was like my own personal stuff or if that was the movie. I did get emotional. Around certain parts in the second half, but again, I didn't find myself like in that state. Like I was almost there, and I was near the onions being cut, but I wasn't the one cutting the onions. So I'm like, and I don't know if it's because I was more focused on the nostalgia of it all, or if I just need to actually just sit there and actually watch it at home for me to see if it actually evokes that feeling. But it's definitely like it would make me cry if I let it. I can be an emotional person. I let movies, make me cry.
Are you a Cancer?
What? No, I'm a Taurus.
Oh, okay.
Why?
I don't know. You give me Cancer vibes
Oh.
in a good way. You just seem like a sensitive soul.
Yeah, I guess so. No, I mean, I could tell you, I do have my own list of movies that make me cry, but I'm curious what the other movies are. But Titanic is number one, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
on
And then
this
I
list.
didn't read the rest of the article, but
Oh.
but what are the movies that make you cry?
Okay, you really gonna do this?
I'll
You
ask
really gonna do
everyone.
this?
We'll go around the room.
Yes, let's please go around because I can't embarrass myself by myself. I can't be the only one here. Okay. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I'm gonna get, people are gonna be like, he's so lame. Ugh. So there are 3 movies that will absolutely make me cry no matter what. And when I say cry, I don't mean like one tear. I mean, I will sit there by myself and like bawl. I'll be like, God damn it. Okay. In this order, Bicentennial Man.
Sorry.
I know, exactly. I know.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
see, that's the reaction. Bicentennial Man, Hook, and Perfect Sense, which I think is a more reasonable movie among that list. I think the first 2 are the eyebrow raisers. They're like, what?
I get Hook. I get it.
Well, Hook is more, it's that nostalgia thing I'm talking about, because I saw that really, really young, like before Titanic, and that's probably like my all-time favorite now. But like I saw that in theaters right before the pandemic. They were doing this special showing near me, and I'd never had this reaction to the scene before. There's the scene where he goes back to London and Maggie Smith is at the top of the stairs and she's just like, hello, boy. And it's like, she's very elderly, Wendy. And I was sitting there in the theater like there's just something about it. But yeah. And then Bicentennial Man, that's a whole nother podcast. There's a specific reason why that movie makes me cry, even though it's quote unquote a bad movie. But anyway.
I mean, there's something about Robin Williams that's inherently sad.
Yeah.
He just has a sadness to him. So I I get it. I know originally I was laughing at your Bicentennial Man, but there is something about Robin Williams that I get.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's probably why
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
Maybe I'll do that on my own podcast and explain why that movie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I did do that actually. But yeah, there's, because I saw that movie when I was 9. And I had already seen Titanic, but there's just something about that movie that made me think really existentially, even though it's not meant to be. It's not advertised as an existential film. It's really not. It's poorly advertised, but I think it's a misunderstood film.
Who directed that?
Chris Columbus, who did Harry Potter, first 2,
Home Alone,
Mrs. Doubtfire, Home Alone,
Mrs.
like all your
Doubtfire
favorite
gets
childhood
me.
movies. He's done. He's
Speaking
done.
of Robin Williams.
Mrs. Doubtfire is another movie that makes me cry, by the way. So that's right after Perfect Sense.
No, me too.
Yeah, what are the movies that make you
Yeah.
cry?
Other than Mrs. Doubtfire.
Doubtfire.
Because I don't know if Mrs. Doubtfire is on my top 3, but it's like to cry to, but it'll get me emotional for sure. I would say Finding Nemo. That one gets me every time. I don't know. It irks me that it every time it'll get me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else. I feel like I used to cry to Titanic, but this time around I felt similarly where I was thinking about the nostalgic factor, and I don't know if it still makes me cry, but I don't know. I can't really think of a lot of movies that make me cry. But I can also cry easily. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of things get me. Like, this isn't a movie, but I've started watching The Wonder Years. And every episode, by the end of it, I'm just like, and it's not even necessarily something sad. It's just something like they learn something that's very heartwarming, or it's like, I'm like, oh my God, they're such good friends, or like there's like some lesson that they learn that I don't know. But I don't know. I just get emotional easily. So
same here.
Yeah.
Same.
The Notebook made me cry, but I have only seen it once. But And but there's a movie called Big Fish, and that one surprised me and made me cry.
Oh, interesting.
Like the end really got me. It surprised me. I was having such a good time in that movie, and then I was like, wow, I didn't see this coming. And that, yeah. I was
Did
like,
it make you weep, or was it just the one tear?
No, I was like I was ugly crying, like full
ugly crying.
Ugly
yeah.
crying. Yeah.
I think that's the question. What movie makes you ugly cry?
That one, Finding Nemo. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Nick?
Nikki?
Oh, I mean, I think Brie knows this one. But A Star Is Born.
Yeah. That sequence where she goes out onto the stage for the first time. I was there.
The second time when her and Bradley Cooper are in the bedroom and he just goes like this and touches his nose. And like, because I saw that movie in the theaters 4 times, what the scene's gonna happen next. It rips me to pieces.
That was my first date with my fiance a couple of years back. We took her to see that movie because I had never seen the original, so I didn't know that it was gonna go down that road.
Yeah.
We were just sitting there afterwards, like ugly crying, like
that movie will get you.
Good first date, right? It's like it's been our tradition now to like watch Titanic for Valentine's Day. All these tragic movies.
Nice.
As long as you don't watch Eternal Sunshine. That's or 500 Days.
Seen, but
those
I
are the
see,
no's.
Like, don't you have to see them though at some point in your life, like a one time, or should you never?
Ben says no. Ben's shaking his head.
I haven't seen them. I'm holding
You do.
out.
You do have to see them, but those aren't date movies. Like I'm gonna hold my ground on those. Those are not date movies.
Oh, just see it on your own, like when you want to be depressed.
Or like see just like casual watch, like hey, let's watch a movie tonight, sort of thing. But we're not gonna make a big date thing out of it. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's healthy to watch those movies, but I don't think they're like date worthy.
I gotcha. Don't get in like let's pop some popcorn and enjoy this.
This is not a Netflix and chill situation.
No. This is like, what existential movie should we watch tonight?
Yes. Let's not talk afterwards. Don't look at each other afterwards.
Yes, let's not talk afterwards.
What
were your movies?
So, A Star Is Born. But I will cry at anything. Like, Brie and I saw that terrible I Want to Dance with Somebody Whitney Houston movie. And I cried.
I think I did too.
Yeah.
But
I get it.
But you know what makes me cry? And that is my embarrassing Bicentennial Man? Songs.
Sure.
I will cry. If you play, it's not a movie. Like, if you play Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, I will cry. In the grocery store, I will cry. I will cry to Formation by Beyonce. If I think about what it's like to be a Black woman, and I'm not a Black woman, but I understand what she's trying to say. Yeah. And it makes me cry.
Wow.
You know what else makes me cry? Well, anything by Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, because their voice is incredible. Talent makes me cry.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Talent, yes. Yep. And I think that's what we feel when we watch movies. Like we're talking about how we can, any movie that's good enough that has that effect can make us, it's the talent that's getting to us. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. I like that.
Number one song, though, that makes me cry is My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion.
I love that. Well, okay. I have a love-hate with that song. My mom used to play it all the time. She wore out the cassette tape, and then she bought the CD, and it's all she played whenever she drove. And I couldn't wait to start driving as a teenager because that meant that I could play my music. And so I would play another Celine song that was better than that, I think.
Which one?
Then You Look at Me.
Oh.
It's from Bicentennial Man.
Nice.
Oh boy. I thought it was going to be like Because You Loved Me or All by Myself.
Oh, that's a great one too. I mean, I love all of her songs are great, but my mom wore that song out. And so we're watching Titanic last night. The credits roll. My Heart Will Go On, and we just couldn't help but start like like mockingly lip syncing.
Oh, Brie and I did that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was waiting for that song because you keep hearing the flute music and the instrumental,
flute music,
but she
yeah,
never
yeah.
goes off. I just was like waiting.
So good.
Yes.
I mean, like, that song is, well, Celine Dion is dentist music, but in the best way.
What?
Like, you know, when you're at the dentist getting your teeth cleaned and you get the hits of the 80s, 90s, and today, and you listen to like a heart power ballad, and then you listen to some, you know, Richard Marx, Right Here Waiting, and then you hear Celine.
I don't know if that's happened to me at the dentist. I think I'd just I don't know what would happen.
I need to make you a playlist.
I think I'd jump out of the chair.
Yeah.
I think I'd jump out of the chair and I'd start singing it, and the dentist would be like, "Get back on there!"
Just body rolling.
Yeah, body roll. I was about to sing. My heart will go on. Don't do this to me. I'm gonna do it.
Oh my gosh! When she hits that high note.
Oh yeah. It's good. It is good. See, like, I do love the song, but it's like I've heard it so many times at this point.
But I'm just a big Celine fan. Like, I think she's the greatest vocalist of all time.
She is. And I love that she can kind of not make fun of her, but like when she did the Deadpool song and music video, like that,
wait, what?
I was like, I love this woman.
I didn't hear about
she's the
that.
best.
Yes.
Is it
Oh
a
my God,
ballad? Is it a
Deadpool
power
2.
ballad?
It's a power ballad. Everything. Yeah. Like Ryan Reynolds is a huge Celine fan, so he was like, I want her to sing the theme song for Deadpool 2. And so like the movie opens with this really tragic scene, and then it cuts to this James Bond style opening credits.
Oh.
But it's Celine Dion singing through it. It's like perfect.
Oh, I love that.
It's funny, but it's also really beautiful. And then the music video, it's classic Celine on a stage singing. It's beautiful. It's emotional. But then you have Ryan Reynolds in high heels walking around as Deadpool around the stage doing ballet.
Wow. I gotta see that. I love the Deadpool movies.
Yes, you gotta see it.
Okay.
It's so good. So I love that she's not, she doesn't take herself too seriously.
Oh my gosh. But have you seen all those videos of her, like people trying to sing to her? Like there's like these compilation videos of her just like doing really funny things and being kind of sassy. She like rolls the window up on one lady. Like she definitely has like personality is what I'm trying to say. Like, and I just love her.
I love her.
Yeah, I've been to many Filipino parties where Celine was always part of the karaoke playlist.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of, and then Mike was passed to me several times, and my mom was like, "You can sing this, you know the words." And I'm like, "Don't."
How does anyone sing? That's like trying to sing a Whitney Houston
I
song.
know.
Though. Like
Can't touch
I
it.
know.
I would like.
You can't.
You can't.
But the joy of music has to run through your veins like it does for Celine. We might not have the pipes, but we gotta like indulge a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit in the shower, you know, or in the car when you're by yourself.
We have to like pump our chest like Celine does when she performs, when she hits a really good note and she's like, yeah. But
I like that. I like that music has like the most effect for you.
Yeah.
As far as like making you ugly cry.
100%. Oh, but you know, speaking of My Heart Will Go On, this song is just as huge as Titanic. This wins the best, you know, song at the Oscars against Elliott Smith, which I think is really funny. Not funny, but it makes me think of like you in your car as a teen being like, now I can play my music and turning up. You know, it's like that juxtaposition. Yeah.
And the other thing that I thought about after watching the movie and hearing the song was, so the composer, James Horner, he wrote the music and I think some of the lyrics for the song as well. But that guy, like, talk about an artist, man. That dude made at least 3, if not 4 power ballads in the 90s that were huge hits. Like, Titanic, Zorro, and then Bicentennial Man. But like, he composed, and like, I would make fun of him rest in peace. You were brilliant, sir. But I would make fun of him in like the aughts, the late aughts, and the early 20 teens because he started recycling a lot of his work. But it's like his body of work was so good that like, of course you could recycle it. Like it's so good. But like, talk about a dude who was able to come up with all those power ballads during the 90s. Like, how do you do that? You know, win Oscars for them, and it's like, how do you do that? It's crazy. It's mind blowing.
Talent.
It's talent, pure talent.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's this movie encapsulated. It's just talent.
Right. I feel
It's
like
a talent.
everyone involved is so talented. Like makes sense why it won so many awards.
Yeah.
It almost makes you sick. It's like, damn. You know?
Well, and the thing with My Heart Will Go On too, and Celine, the Celine of it all, there's such an earnestness to her as a performer in this song, but Titanic is so earnest.
Yes, it works. They both work perfectly together. And yes, earnest is the big theme, not just for this movie, but for Jimmy C's work.
Jimmy C.
Even though like earlier films were super violent and stuff, there is this sort of earnestness about them, even to this day with the avatars. The other bit of trivia, I didn't know this, but my fiance was telling me that Celine had did the song in one take.
Oh wow.
And like that was it. Like what we hear was the take. And it's like,
that's amazing.
How?
See, if I sit on that too long, that'll make me cry.
See? Yeah. Good. Let's let this happen.
No.
Come on, Bree.
It is the talent, though.
Just think about her talent.
Someone just slowly plays Landslide and it's over for me.
Oh.
I get it though.
Yeah,
Landslide's powerful.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so then let's just get into, so Titanic was released on December 19th, 1997. It stayed at least in theaters at least till May of 98. Maybe even longer.
Which is unheard of.
And the biggest amount of ticket sales during that time period was on Valentine's Day, 1998. That was like the peak.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like last night I felt like one of the guys from like the 90s taking their girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I think that was part of the nostalgia that was getting me. I was like, damn, there were guys. And like there were older people in the audience behind us I'm like, you were probably my age now taking, to see them or someone else that you were dating at that time, but like whatever it is, like anyway, but yeah, biggest movie in theaters, and it came out in 97. You said like late 97?
December 97.
That's interesting that he's calling it the 25th for this year. Interesting. That should have come out in December then, of last year.
Maybe they were like,
maybe for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They were focused more on that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Movie theaters are so weird nowadays.
How so?
Like just the way that movies stay in the theater and come and go. I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same.
I think because of that movie. So like, I ragged on Marvel a little bit, right? I think I can rag on this now too. So before Titanic, a movie making 100 to 300 million was considered very successful. It's like, holy crap, we made 300 mil. Not just in, well, I should clarify. Most movies made between like 100 to 200, and then you would make an extra off home video sales. So making 300 mil in total was the goal if you were a big movie. After Titanic, everything blew up, and it was like, we have a new benchmark, and if we don't hit that, like, what are we doing? And so I think what you saw as a result of Titanic was this thing by studios to try to hit that mark. Not a billion, if not a billion, then certainly somewhere close to it. There's this great little useless trivia, I guess, but like there's this little thing where George Lucas was making episode 1 around that time. And there's this great behind the scenes footage of him talking to Frank Oz, who voiced Yoda. And he's saying, like, we're never going to beat Titanic. It's just not possible. And it's like, you're George Lucas. You created Star Wars. You built an empire. Like,
Yeah.
But that's the mentality. Like, that's what it did to these filmmakers, was like, I'm never going to beat Titanic.
Wow.
And so it kind of had that effect on it. And so, Brie, like what you're touching on is the sort of, it's this like baseball card effect, or this baseball stat effect, where it's like, we no longer can just sit there and go, I'm going to, like, that movie's coming out, but I can't really see it opening weekend, so I'm going to go see it next weekend. It's not really going to affect everything.
Yeah.
Now it's all dependent on opening weekend. And if you're not there opening weekend, like, people are going to bash you hard. Like, going back to Way of Water, the anticipation for the movie to fail by a lot of trolls online was, they were going hard on their opening weekend because it didn't cross 100 mil, like a Marvel movie would. So they were comparing it to a Marvel movie already, like, oh, it didn't cross 100 mil, this thing's going to flop. Cut to now, and it's top 3 box office.
It was number 2 last week.
Right. And so I think it's useless to try to put stock into that and to try to treat it like baseball stats. If the movie is good, it's going to find its audience. And that's what you find with a lot of Oscar nominated films, particularly the ones that are kind of under the radar, The Whale or The Banshees of Inisherin. Like, those movies are not going to be box office successes the way that Titanic is or Avatar is, and they're going to fail their first weekend. So it's going to throw distribution off, and movie theaters are going to go, well, why would we keep that? It's not making us money. But like, just let it sit a little bit longer.
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
hurt
what
you
I'm
to let
trying
it
to
sit.
say. Let it sit longer. That's my beef with I don't know, things nowadays.
It's so interesting about that too, because the funny bit is The Way of Water is today's sleeper hit.
Yes. Yeah.
But 20 years ago, the sleeper hit of probably our lifetime, My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Right.
And that is a small rom-com. And we probably will never have that again, but there is that hope. But you have to have a faith in a mid-budget, mid-sized movie, which, because now Titanic set that bar, Avatar in 2009 set an even bigger bar, and then the Marvel of it all, it's like you get your Everything Everywhere All at Once, but you don't get your My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't know if it makes any sense, but you don't get that.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. But I do have a counter for that. And the closest we've come to that is Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh, another movie that made me cry in the theater. Not because of the movie, but I saw...
Yes. And the music.
Yes.
So
well, Yellow. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But no, what made me cry was walking out of the theater and seeing a bunch of old Asian men. And I just,
Yep.
The thought of that, just, they had to go see this movie because it was representation. That's the sauce.
But also Tina Grannis.
Yeah, that's true.
The wedding ceremony. You don't care about the characters, but that rendition of the song,
you're like, I get it.
Makes me cry every time.
It's beautiful.
Makes me cry every time. But yeah, to Bree's point, like, let these movies sit and cook. Like, let the smaller movies sit and cook. The big budget stuff you can either keep or get rid of because you're going to put it on Disney Plus eventually anyway. But
give
let the whale
movies
sit for a little bit longer.
Is the whale already gone?
Just give them a chance. That's my Titanic bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. I'm glad we can agree.
Yes.
Good thing to bring up though. That's
Sorry, just looking at my notes. Number 3 at the box office this past week was the Titanic re-release. Speaking about movie theaters.
Jimmy C's still collecting those checks, man.
Jimmy C really is. Do you think he's gonna release like a Terminator or anything? Like, I don't know.
I would hope so. True Lies. Bring it all back.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
True Lies
Full
in
filmography.
3D.
In 3D. Oh my God.
I'm down.
That'd be too much.
Let's go. Yeah, I mean, you know, as talented as he is, he's also a very savvy businessman. So, you know, it's very obvious, you know, as a filmmaker myself, I would, just for nostalgia's sake, say like, oh my God, it's been a quarter of a century. Like, I want to re-release this just for nostalgia. He's not thinking that. He's thinking like, I'm gonna make more money out of this. Like, this is great because people are gonna eat it up because yeah, it is the 25th anniversary. You know, it's smart stuff. I can't fault him for that. It's genius.
Smart. And I think we also just want to go to the movies and feel something.
Yeah. I feel
We
like
do.
I'd rather
Like this
see
past year
re-releases.
has,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, with releases, you know, there's a great movie theater up here near me where they do things every month. It's like a retro showing every month, and you know, every March they'll play Labyrinth.
Mm.
You know,
that's
you
cool.
can go see Labyrinth on the big screen. Like, that's cool. I saw Hook there, so it's like I'm a huge fan of re-releases, particularly if you were too young to go see these movies in theaters, or if they were even before your time. Like, there's just something about the theater, and that's something I noticed about this movie too, is that I noticed a lot more seeing it on the big screen. And I had seen the movie all throughout my life. Like, I saw it as a kid, I saw it as a teenager, I saw it as a young adult, and I saw it as an older person. You know, and there's this little older person, but there's just little things that you don't notice unless you watch it on the big screen. Like, there's just something about watching it in the movie theater that like can't replace a 70 or a 50-inch TV. Like, you can't replace it.
I agree.
I fully agree. What movie theater? Just a shout out because I love those things.
What is the movie theater? The movie theater, God. Ooh, that's bad that I can't name it right now. Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. We like the Borough, which is like 5-minute walk down the road from us, but that's not it. Hang on, let me Angelica Film Center. Hang on, let me redo that. It's Angelica Film Center.
Make sure to
There
cover
are
it.
2 locations here, one in DC and then one in Fairfax, Virginia.
Oh, cool.
Great little. They do film festivals there too. My short film was at one of those film festivals, so it played at the Angelica. So yeah, it's a great theater. Great theater.
And you mentioned, I think you let it slip, The Narrow, which is our independent film source, and that's where I saw Bill and Ted for the first time, in Fargo.
Great.
And Breakfast
Is
at
it
Tiffany's.
Still there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. The video stores is what's closed down, right?
The funny thing is, yes, but also it's not in the Barry at ODU. It's the newer art building. But they have a section in there where it is the Narrow video.
Oh, really? Like, it's called the Narrow video and everything?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I got to
thought
go
they were
back and check that out.
closed.
That's all, because the Narrow video store was legit. I love that store. I miss that store. That was so cool. You could just
So nostalgic.
spend a whole day in there.
Truly.
But I'm glad the theater is at least still there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that the video store had like all these like niche European films.
Yes.
And not even like the good ones, but like the weird ones. Like, you're like, what is this doing here? Like, it was better than Blockbuster, I think.
Oh, truly. I remember one day, just a random day in 2017, where I was like, I want to get into Swedish horror. So I went to the Narrow video and just like picked up a movie.
Nice. What was the film that you ended up watching?
Don't remember. I don't think it was that good, but
but the Narrow had it.
But they had it. So now we have to go to Shudder, which nothing against them. Please sponsor us unless they're defunct.
What's Shudder?
It was like a movie for
horror.
Yeah. Or like
the horror streaming channel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I get
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Shudder.
Mhm.
Like, ooh.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
That was their pitch in their meeting.
You know, like, ooh. I don't know.
Well, so we were talking about the Titanic re-release. Why do you think this movie, right now in 2023, it's still in the top 3 at the box office? It's, what is the relevance of this film now?
It goes back to what we were talking about, earnestness, I think. Yes, there's the nostalgia of it, and you're going to see older people there who had seen it, 25 years ago. But if you're seeing younger people, it's probably because they just want to see what all the fuss is about, and hopefully they come out of it feeling the same way we do about it. And they're like, there's something different about this. And they're not going to know what it is, but it's that earnestness. They're going to be like, it's not cynical. It's not, jokey. It's not, childish or whatever. Like, there's something weird about it. And it's probably going to be the first movie that they had seen in their life where they're like, what is that feeling? They're going to be questioning it, and they're going to like it, I think, hopefully. I don't know.
I think so. I think for the reasons you just say, I mean, even from the first meeting with Jack and Rose where she tries to jump off the boat, there's this, I guess you just say, love between the two. There's like, oh, I know what love is now. And throughout their whole short-lived whirlwind of a relationship, there's something like, it's truly like romance and love, which to your Marvel point, everything has a code of cynicism to it now to be, how not like, what's the word? For everyone to just be able to easily digest it. But like kids today or young people today being like, ooh, this is romance and this is love.
Yeah.
In all that earnestness. There's nothing else.
Yeah. Right. And, I think that's a reason, Way of Water is successful as well. Like, not to say that a movie needs to be devoid of humor or anything like that, but it needs to be done appropriately. And at the heart of it, especially a big blockbuster or an adventure film, this isn't an adventure film, by the way, obviously, but at the heart of it, at the heart of any movie, if you're trying to make it for big audiences, there needs to be some level of earnestness to it in order for it to really resonate.
I feel like this movie also is like interesting, like the way it tells a story. Like it's not just like a typical romance. Like it's about a big picture event as well, like a tragedy. It's like so much going on. Yep. It's like a retelling. Yep. They're excavating things. Like it's so interesting from so many different perspectives, I think.
The structure of it, I'm so shocked that they didn't get a screenplay nomination at the Oscars because of the structure.
Yeah. It's very well done. And to your point, Brie, like they're able to juggle so many things seamlessly. And we talk about the visual transitions, but yes, there's something to be said just about from the screenplay perspective how it's able to balance those things out appropriately. What was the point I was going to make? It's lost on me now. I'm sorry, but go ahead, Nick.
Well, time is okay. How much time do we have with you?
However long you need.
Okay. Because before we sign off, there's a couple more things I wanna talk about.
Sure.
One, so we talked about Titanic sweeping the box office, but it also swept the 1998 Oscars.
Yeah.
Like sweeped. And this is the year of LA Confidential, Good Will Hunting, and As Good as It Gets.
Yeah. Speaking of Robin Williams.
Yeah. And Helen Hunt, we talked about her too.
Yeah, it swept in all the technical categories, directing and Best Picture. None for acting. I think Gloria Stewart might have been nominated. She was like the only actor nominated.
Let's let's see to make sure. Isn't that's the year Helen Hunt won, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think so, because that was a very seminal win for me.
We're
as
just
a
talking
young
about
person.
wins, right? Not just
Yeah.
nominations.
Or nominations, too.
Yeah.
Kate Winslet was nominated.
Mm-hmm.
She was? Okay.
But she didn't win.
Right.
Let's see. Is there a Gloria Stewart?
I don't see her.
Sorry.
1998 Oscar nominees.
Oh, I didn't
Okay.
know Burt Reynolds for Boogie Nights was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
And he hated
That's
working on that movie until the movie came out, and it was, so successful. He was changing his tune. Yeah, Gloria Stewart was nominated.
Mm-hmm. She is very good. But Kim Basinger in LA Story was, or LA Confidential.
LA Confidential, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Sorry.
do you all feel about that? You think Titanic was like deserving all that, or was it like too much hype?
Like as far as like acting or like the whole sweep, like
The whole sweep, yeah, technical categories.
I feel like the technical categories definitely, like the film, like the editing of it, like the pacing, like I mean, you could say some of it could have been cut a little shorter, but I kind of like the scenes where it's just the plates falling from the. I guess that's also like some of the direction as well, but just the way that the scenes don't feel like when they're longer, they have a purpose.
Well, the length of the time in the movie the ship is sinking is the time in real life that it took the Titanic to sink, which is genius. Jimmy C.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy C's genius.
There's honestly nothing I would have cut.
Yeah.
Like, he already cut a lot down, and he already reshot alternate takes. Like, I don't know if you've seen, Nikki, you probably haven't seen them, but Bree, you have,
cool.
like, the alternate ending.
I don't know. Possibly? Like, I don't...
So...
What is the alternate ending?
So old Rose goes to the edge of the ship at the end, and she drops the heart of the diamond in the ocean. Before she does that, she's standing over the railing, and Bill Paxton's character, he's talking to her granddaughter off in the distance, and he has that revelation. He's like, I never let it in, all that kind of stuff. But then her granddaughter sees her standing over the railing, and they're like, oh my God. So they run down.
Yes. I remember that. Was that on the VHS? Because I feel like, or something.
No, that was on the DVD, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So they try to save her because they think that she's going to kill herself. And she reveals the diamond to Bill Paxton, and he's like losing his mind. He's like, oh, like everything he had just said is completely negated, never let it sink in. And then all of a sudden he's back to like being the pirate that he is. And he's just like, don't drop it. And, his ponytail sidekick is like, like everyone shows up, and she's just like, that's the point, Mr. Lovett. Like, Cal wasn't gonna, pay for my stuff or whatever. He was just gonna be a memory for me, and like whatever he says. And then she drops it in the ocean, and ponytail sidekick loses his mind, and he's like, you crazy bitch, he tries to like jump off to like try to grab it, but he doesn't. And then that. Bill Paxton has like this crazy look on his face, and he's just like, well, okay. And then like he dances with her granddaughter. Like, it's a very weird sequence.
I for some reason that one lived in my brain, and like when I saw it this time, I was waiting for something more to happen at the end, because I remember thinking, that's it? I thought something else happened. And I think because I've seen this movie so many times over the years, like, it's been a long time since I've seen it on VHS, but I'm pretty sure somehow, I think my mind also likes to change the end of movies. So I think that one I decided that was the real ending somehow subconsciously.
Yeah. But even so, like, it's such a weird thing, especially after Bill Paxton's little speech before that. But what was the point of all that? Oh, the editing. So yeah, there was nothing I would have cut. I think all the choices that he made, including switching to the current ending that we actually have, I think those were all the right moves. And to your point, to both of your points, like letting the moments build, and like the extra shots, that like stuff that we don't even get in big movies anymore. Like, it's also kinetic or frenetic and just all over the place, that like you don't take the time to let those moments build more, it all just happens so fast.
Well, now it seems like Oh, sorry.
No, go for it. Go for
Oh,
it.
just now it seems like the length is just as long, like over 3 hours, but it's because they're trying to cram so much in
Yes.
instead of
Yes.
being like, oh, we're having this runtime because it adds to the story. This is how the world you're building all the worlds and stuff like that.
There's a great James Cameron interview, short interview that came out just a few months ago for Way of Water, and he was basically asked about that really, and he goes that he was pressured by the studio at the time of the first Avatar to cut the runtime down because there were just so many scenes of Jake and Neytiri flying around on their banshees. And he was like, the studio was pressuring him. They're like, cut it. And he's like, no, I'm never going to cut that. And they were like, why? And it's like, it's character moments. Like, you need that. It serves a purpose. Yes,
you
visually,
don't have to
of course,
have
it's
dialogue
beautiful.
all the time.
Yeah, you don't have to have dialogue all the time. And it's, it's visually impressive, obviously, and he wants to show that off. But really, it does come down to character. It goes back to the thing we were talking about. Like, he does care about the characters. And any chance he gets to show that, he'll do it. Would you guys mind if my fiance came in real quick? She needs to grab something.
Oh, yeah.
No.
In the back.
Come on.
Actually, I know what she needs. I'll give it to her. Sorry. Just
No, you're
ignore
good.
me for a second. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Speaking of Avatar, things flying around, like their scenes, when we watched Twilight,
Yeah.
talk about people flying around that could have been cut because that movie was long.
Maybe if James Cameron directed Twilight, it would have been different.
Yes.
It would have made more sense.
Yes. Well, and even the I keep going back to the Marvel movies, but even those movies, right? Like, there's just so much, as you said, there's so much stuff happening that, like, you don't get the moment to breathe. And that's why I like, we talked about the older movies like Iron Man and all that. Those first few movies actually did breathe. We actually, we got to see him assembling stuff. So, like, we felt it. And so, like, when he suited up for the first time, you were actually pumped because you were like, yeah, we earned this. Like, we built this thing together as, audience, Twilight, though.
That movie is long.
That's a long movie that feels very long. If you rewatch it, I don't know how you feel about Twilight in general, but it's not. When we watched it again, we found out it was not very good, and it was very painful to sit through.
We felt like Rose at the beginning before Leo comes in.
At the table, just sitting and zoning out.
Well, I was going to say I felt like at the edge of the Titanic. Like, should I jump?
That's worse.
I'm going to be real with you. I love that third movie, though.
Oh, the third.
Okay, yeah, the third might be good. But the first one?
Yeah.
The pacing is just not.
It is. Well, in the second one, too, geez. I can't remember what the plot of that movie was.
There's not much of a plot.
The soundtrack slaps.
The soundtrack's great.
The soundtrack to all the movies slap, let's be real.
Yeah.
And the only reason I really like that third movie is because David Slade directed it, and he did 30 Days a Night. And so you definitely feel his influence there. Like, the vampires do feel a little bit more menacing. They don't have the teeth from 30 Days a Night, but they have that vibe, that menace about them.
Yeah.
And plus the Jacob Edward thing is just at its all-time peak there. I am hotter than you,
Which one are you, team Jacob or Edward?
I am team Brawny Paper Towel Dad. I'm a big Charlie fan.
Yeah. Yes. He's cute.
Yeah.
If I had to pick between the two, though, man, I guess Edward, because he's not violent towards Bella as much as Jacob is. I don't know.
I will say, when Brie and I saw New Moon, when Robert Pattinson is shirtless and he comes out into the sun, I audibly said, "Ew."
Like, he laughed out loud. We're in the theater.
He just looks so pasty.
Oh my gosh.
Pasty, and then, like, he had that like late aughts, like, skinny boy thing going on. I mean, I'm skinny too,
Which
but
I
there's
like,
that specific.
but
I think they did him dirty
But
because
yeah,
they tried
but
to
it's
give him
like
the
it meant
fake
to play off as
abs.
like hot.
no.
What'd you say, Brie?
They tried to give him fake abs and it went wrong. Like they did him dirty. I think if they just let him be, maybe his natural, maybe he doesn't have all that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah. But they try to put, it just looked weird. He looks better now as Batman.
Yeah.
He's got a better toned body. You
yeah,
know?
I think he's kind of low key hot, like in Batman.
Now he
for
is,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Or just in general.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't find Leo attractive. My typical type is like skinny and ghostly, but Robert Pattinson doesn't do it for me. But Bill Paxton with that earring, though, it does.
Well, and then Chalamet too.
Mm-hmm.
Chalamet, yeah.
Chalamet can pull that look. I'll tell you this: I was very self-conscious about my own body until I watched Call Me by Your Name, because Chalamet plays that stuff off. So, I mean, he's meant to be awkward and kind of weird, but like he still plays it with such confidence. I was like, I can be confident too.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's like Crazy Rich Asians all over again.
And I love that he's still like that. Like even for Dune, like he's still like skinny but confident and plays it off. I'm like, kudos, man, you're my inspiration.
I'm in love with Timothée Chalamet, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I will never
Yeah.
not be.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about Titanic wise?
Titanic wise. Yeah, I don't know. I think we touched on everything. And you know what? Brie and I gave you crap for not watching it before this, but your pod is called Late to the Party, so it's appropriate.
We're all late to the party sometime.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, we're all late to the party sometime. I do recommend, because this is Late to the Party, I do recommend a watch of Perfect Sense. That was my number 3 movie.
okay.
As far as the movies that make me bawl. That one is with Ewan McGregor and Eva Green.
Oh
my God. You want to talk about chemistry? Actually, you know what? Not just A Star is Born. Perfect Sense as well. Perfect chemistry there. But it is a sadder movie, so that's why it didn't come to mind, because it's not like a straightforward romance. Like it's equally tragic, but really bitter. Like more so than Titanic, I think. Honestly, like it'll get you. It's really good.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll check them out.
Perfect Sense. Who directed that?
David Mackenzie, I think is his name. He also did Hell or High Water with Chris Pine.
Okay.
And he did something recently. I can't remember what it is. I think it might have been a show, but it was his first movie. He's a British director. And without giving too much away, the premise is there's this, Eva Green is this scientist. Ewan McGregor is a cook. He's a line cook, and they're living in Britain, and they just happen to come across each other innocently. But their whole romance is, tested when the entire world is going through this bizarre pandemic where everyone is losing parts of their 5 senses.
Mm.
Oh.
Wow.
So like,
Interesting.
yeah, so like taste, like, what would it be like if you couldn't taste anything anymore? Smell, like, and their relationship is tested as they're losing all, their senses. So it's very beautiful. It is very sad though. And they are fantastic in it. Like it's one of those hidden gems.
Okay.
That I would just recommend to everyone.
Just bring the tissue box.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely bring the tissue box. Yep.
Gotcha.
Well, besides Perfect Sense, is there anything else you'd like to promote or plug?
Nothing right now. Seeing that this is my first time
Yeah.
on the show. I make short films sometimes. I have something out there, little mini doc called Kaleidoscope, about a guy I went to high school with who was is really nerdy and was introverted at the time, but then he moved out to California, in Santa Barbara in the middle of the pandemic. But when things started kind of lightening back up, he picked up roller skating and found a community there. So I got that out. You can watch that on the webs. I had a short film that was at Angelica for a film festival that is not out anywhere on the webs yet, but I'll find some way to get it out there. But yeah, no, just doing a lot of photography right now.
That's awesome.
Oh, and my own pod. Sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't.
yeah.
Yeah. Conscious Rewind. Wherever you listen to podcasts, Google, Spotify, Apple. My best friend and I from high school go back and talk about things that have influenced our tastes over time. We talk about Twilight
Nice.
and how we both like them. Both ironically and just we like them. Like they are what they are. So yeah, we talk about those influences that had impact on us, and yeah.
Bicentennial Man.
Yeah.
Bicentennial Man, yes. Talk about that. That movie, underrated, poorly advertised, misunderstood. Rewatch it if you haven't watched it in a long time.
It's low key on my list because I have no idea I've only seen the poster, so I'm just so curious.
So do not watch the trailer. In fact, I will try to make a new trailer that will sell the movie better than the way they tried to sell it. Because it was advertised as like, and it's literally the movie trailer voice being like, check out this wacky adventure of this robot going on this journey to become a man. And it's like, that's not the movie.
I get you. Not everything can work within the world. In a world guy.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's an earnest film about this robot who's more sentient than others, and whose master owner, notices this, and he's like, I want to help you realize your full potential. And it's one of those movies that touches on time and death and what it means to be immortal, and would you give that up if you had the chance to die as a human. Like there's so many like little philosophical things in that movie that were just completely ripped to shreds by the trailer alone and became this huge flop. But it's so good. I love that movie. And the score is by James Horner. So it's like, if you love the Titanic score, you'll love this score. Embeth DeWitz is in it. If you love Matilda.
Yes.
Love Matilda. Yeah. So yeah, Robin Williams is always good. Like, just watch it. And Chris Columbus, he always does decent stuff. So.
Well, thank you so much, RJ.
Yeah,
it's been a blast talking about Titanic.
No problem.
It's been a blast.
If you ever want to come back and talk about Bicentennial Man, come back on.
That was the pitch. That's all I got to say. I don't want to nerd out too much.
We got you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I love the pod, and whenever, if you all want to have me back on, I'm game. Let's do it.
Sweet.
Of course. It's a pleasure. Well, bye, RJ.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.